everyone, welcome back to Cotto Verde. My name's Annette and today is another glorious day here in South Buckinghamshire in the UK, and today I am going to be moving some plants and planting some plants, and I thought you might like to come along and join me. It's a gorgeous sunny day and the garden is starting to fill in and look spectacular. The first thing I need to do is move some feverfew. This is something that I planted last year and it's come through the winter and it's regrowing, but it's far too close to the roses that I've planted it next to. So I need to move it. I also don't particularly want it near those roses anymore. So I'm moving it and I'm going to move it near to the grass border because I think those tiny little daisy-like flowers are going to look really cute with some of the grasses, and I think putting the three plants together in that area is going to look nice. So that's what I'm going to start with. Feverfew is going to look really cute in my grass border with the tiny little daisy white flowers. I just think it's going to complement everything else that I've got going on in here, and I think the white's going to add a bit of interest to all the other browns and deep reds that I've got going on here. So what I'm going to try to do, or in fact I might get Richard to try to do it, is we've got some daffodils planted underneath the silver birch, and I think they look really pretty in the spring, but as the foliage dies down they kind of look a little bit messy. So what I'd like to do, I think, is plant the feverfew amongst the daffodil foliage, or where the daffodil bulbs are. Try to get the feverfew in the middle there, because then every year, hopefully, as long as the feverfew lasts, it should cover the dying foliage of the daffodils. Now we don't want to cut the dying foliage down for the daffodils. Just in case you don't know, it's important to leave it to die down naturally, because that way the leaves can absorb all the sun and goodness, nutrients that they can whilst they're growing, and that gets absorbed into the bulb, and then you have better flowers next year. They're looking a bit droopy, so I'm going to give them a really good water and hopefully they will survive the transplant. Now that we've moved the feverfew, I'm going to be moving a little spruce tree. I think it's like a Norwegian spruce or something like that. I looked it up on like a plant app. This is a plant that's quite precious to me because it's a very small plant that I've saved from when we first moved into this house many years ago, and it's just been sitting in a pot and languishing for a long time. And then last year I thought, you know what, I'm just going to put it into a flower bed. I had a spot for it and I put it into a flower bed, but it's really grown, and I have a feeling, a horrible feeling, it's going to grow into a tree. If it does, then I need to rethink where I'm going to put it. But for now, it's way too close to the edge of a border, and I need to move it actually from the spot it's in. I planted it on the shady side of our dahlia border, far too close to the edge because it's grown. Like, it didn't grow for 10 years and then suddenly, now it's in the ground, it's growing like crazy. So I need to move it to a situation where I think it's going to be better suited. So I'm going to move it to the bed at the bottom of the garden, and I'm going to move it near to another evergreen tree and see what happens. And if it gets really, really big and starts putting on loads of growth, I may have to move it. But I'm hoping, because of the structure of how this is growing, it's not growing as a tree, I'm hoping that it's just going to turn into maybe a dwarf conifer shrub of some kind. I wish I knew what it was, but I don't. Now that I've moved that little spruce, I am going to cut back my rosemary. It's pretty much finished flowering, and I really want to tackle it now before I forget. It's getting quite woody, and so I need to cut it back. It's kind of taken over the corner it's in, and I want it to be more of a sort of full structure, and I don't want it to get leggy and woody the way it is. So let's see if I can save this rosemary plant that I should have pruned last year and didn't. I'm going to tackle it now. The important thing when we're cutting back large rosemary bushes, or in fact any rosemary bush, if it's woody, if we cut too far back, it's a bit like lavender, if we cut too far back into that brown hard wood, it may not reshoot. So we have to be really careful to cut it back, leaving some of the green foliage, and not to cut it back too hard. It is very tempting. Obviously, if we want to thin it, we can cut an entire branch off. So I'm going to have a look at the plant and see whether that's something that I need to do, or whether I can just give the whole thing a nice trim. So you can see it flowered beautifully. So when we're pruning the rosemary, we don't want to go back further than, you know, where we can see a good amount of green growth. So on this branch, if I cut it to there, then there's still a good amount of green growth on it. And I'm just going to prune all the branches back. Where the branches are falling over the patio too much, I'm just going to take those out, because I do want the edge softened, but as you can see, I've got lavender underneath and it's just being completely smothered. So I'm doing quite a bit of pruning on this stuff here. I may even just take that out completely. It smells amazing. gosh, it's definitely warm weather here. It's absolutely glorious. I don't know how people in really hot countries manage to do any gardening. Maybe you get used to the warmth, or you garden really early in the morning. It's still fairly early morning here, but time's getting on. Anyway, we have moved the plants I wanted to move, and I've pruned back the rosemary, which really needed doing. Actually, I should talk about pruning the rosemary. So just in case I wasn't really clear, if I wanted to keep a branch, I cut back to where there was still some green foliage, and that way that promotes the side shoots. It's a bit like pinch a gap, so it will promote the side shoots and encourage them to bush out, and then I'll have a bushier plant and not something quite so leggy and woody. If I didn't want the branch at all, for instance, where it was coming over the lavender and crowding that out, then I've just taken that right back as far as I wanted to. Anyway, I really think it's going to make a big difference to that bush. I should have done it last year and I didn't get around to it. But good news is Richard has now offered to help me plant up the peacock lilies, peacock orchids, peacock lilies, the Acidanthera, in the patio beds here, and they really do need to get in the ground if we want blooms this year. So we are going to pop those bulbs into the patio beds, and then we'll have wonderful scented evenings here out on the patio in the late summer months. But that's it for today. I really hope you've had some fun with me as we moved some plants and pruned back the rosemary, and now we've planted some bulbs. I really have had so much fun in the sunshine. I hope everyone's getting out into the garden this weekend. It really is glorious. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like because it really does help me. And if you'd like to see more, subscribe to my channel. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.